Can you hear us, Charlie?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you fine. We don't have a video, but
Yeah,
ch-
I'm trying to figure out how to get the video to work.
all right. Well, if you play with that, and but we can hear you, and we got Charlie Fitch on. I was telling you guys about, in my opinion, the two top referees. We had the first one on previously, and that's Harvey Doc, and my man Charlie joins us now. Charlie, how you doing, brother?
Good.
Aside from trying to get your video to work.
Yeah. I don't know why it's not working.
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
But, so what's going on?
Not much. Let's see. I was at a memorial service for Don Simpkin last night. He was one of my boxing coach when I was younger, and he just great. Just can't say enough good things about Don Simpkin.
Yeah, which he was definitely a loss, and it just seems like we're losing a lot of the old time guys, and it makes me a little nervous, to be honest with you, Charlie. But because I'm not that far behind. But first time I met you was I can't believe 15 years ago in 2011 in Hamburg, New York. When I look back at that, Amanda Serrano was on that card. She was like the co-main event, right?
Yeah, that was a good fight card. There were some good fighters on that card that day, and yeah.
Lionel Thompson was the one you did, and he was kind of up and coming when you reffed him in that fight when he beat Angel Gonzalez.
Yep. Yeah, he was a good fighter, Lionel Thompson.
Lionel B, right?
Yep. He was a real gentleman. Fought a nice, good, hard, clean fighter. But he knew how to. He knew how to foul. Someone fouled him. If the referee didn't do their job, most good fighters, they'll take matters in their own hands if the referee doesn't address the fouls. But if the referee's doing their job, most fighters they're going to fight clean, and he was that type of fighter. Would fight clean. Was very well schooled. And I keep trying to remember. He fought some good fighters in his career, Lionel Thompson. I think he moved out to Las Vegas at one point in time.
Yeah, and he one of his things was he had a solid chin, right? I mean, I think he eventually got stopped, but I think when he was in there, when he started fighting, the higher level guys, I remember him hanging in there tough with some hard punching fighters.
Yeah, and in fact, his only losses, from what I recall, were two good fighters, to the top level guys, and yeah, if he was stopped, it was maybe just only once in his career to a good punching, very knowledgeable fighter. And I wish I don't have Box Rec up right now, or because that's like I look at that all the time, and that's just a great source of information.
So listen, the referee's job, you were talking about, having a good referee in when we were just talking about Lionel Thompson's fight. But, you bring up a point that I wanted to ask you. The referee's job basically has changed over the years. For example, like when you go way back, before they even made fighters go to a neutral corner after a knockdown, the guy was able to stand over his opponent and attack him as soon as they got to their feet. How do you think you would have been as a referee in that era? Knowing that you've been trained and, safety for the fighters, and obviously you're one of the best at doing that. How do you think if you could go back in time and you were refereeing, and those were the rules, how do you think it would be? What do
Well, that would be super cool to go back in time and to be able to referee the fighters from that time period. yeah, that's that's like spending some time in heaven, being able to do that. As far as like how I would do it, I think how I would try to do it would be based on I would try to use this. I think you got to use the standards of the time that you're in. So
Right, right. No,
if
that's what
I'm
I mean. I mean, as
if
a
I'm in the
referee,
50s,
yeah,
I would have to change my mindset from today to how it was then. And that I'd be run out of the ring after one fight if I applied today's standards to the standards used back then.
you imagine if you went back, if you were able to go back in time and just as you are now, and all of a sudden you're refereeing, and you're right, they would have dragged you out of the ring. But it's with that thought, right? I mean, how good do you think that the referees' safety protocols have changed? I mean, we're talking about that and laughing, but really it wasn't that long ago. So we fast forward to today, and you guys got to take a lot of safety precautions. Tell us about that.
Yep. Safety is definitely something I think that's talked a lot more about now than it's been in previous decades. And there's this continuing advance, continuing to come up with new safety things. But I think we also got to be careful that we don't go too far. Well, because it is a sport that the object is to hurt the other person, and so it's kind of like I heard Arthur McCaney when I was reading his book had a good analogy in it where he said, you're as a referee, you're on a tightrope between the crowds, the fans' demand for violence and safety, and so you're trying to balance those two, and the standards of those two are different today, than they were even in the 1980s, 1970s, 50s, even early 2000s. It's changed now in 2026 from how it was actually even a few years ago. It's changing. So there's a real balance that I don't think I answered your question. Did I? Tell me what was that question again? I'm sorry.
No, I was just asking how much it's changed.
Yeah.
That with the safety, like what you guys obviously you're constantly being forced to, or are you being forced to take classes or attend seminars to keep up with new rules, or I mean, how does that happen?
Well, at a minimum, you have to, I attend your state training, seminar. But I think the referees that really want to excel, and the best referees, I see them out there. They're going to other referee trainings. That you're paying out of your own pocket to go to ABC seminars around the country. I usually attend about anywhere from 3 to 5 per year, usually trainings, and you're always learning new stuff at these trainings. A lot, it's like a lot of it will be repeating things you already know, but it's actually good to hear it repeated because it's like, okay, I'm on track. I remember that. I got that in mind. And then every once in a while you hear a new nugget or something like, I kind of forgot about that. So definitely you got to go to all the safety, as many trainings as you can. Darn, I was thinking about something and I forgot what it was. Sorry about that, Billy.
Hey, what was it always does.
Maybe.
But yeah. In your opinion, what was the best fight you ever refereed? I know you refereed a lot, but there's got to be one.
There's quite a few come to mind. So there's I kind of don't want to like the most recently it was the ring fight of the year. That was the most recent excellent fight that I did between the junior lightweights at 130 pounds. One of the best fights I actually did was that was a non-world championship fight. Was a non-televised fight. It took place in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, and it was between. I'm looking at it on BoxRec right now. It was a fighter named Trayshawn Wiggins, who was from Johnstown, Pennsylvania, and Dakota Linger from West Virginia. and that was the most exciting fight I've ever done that wasn't a world championship fight between those two guys. The crowd, it was just a small little venue in Johnstown. My only first time being there. And it was a 10-round main event, for a minor title. And these two guys took turns hurting one another. And there was a few times where I came close to stopping the fight and where they got rocked. Each one, mostly Trayshawn got rocked the most actually early on. And the fight finally ended, I think maybe around round 6 or so, with Trayshawn landing a one-punch knockout. And to my shock, the fighter from West Virginia got up. I waved it when he got up. I didn't think he was going to get up. But what that showed that he got up was to me that when it showed how good conditioning he was in. His leg strength was so good. He must have done a lot of running, in my opinion, to be able to get up from those punches. And that's something that, in my opinion, like the fighters that are in great shape, that's one, like Muhammad Ali. A theory I got is one of the reasons why he had such a great chin was he did so much road work. Like he would do road work in combat boots. And I think that leg strength is real important for being able to absorb a punch, which is kind of odd. You wouldn't think of that, the legs with your brain, but I think it is.
You're 100% correct. I mean, of course, not only can you take a punch with strong legs, but most power punchers have big, strong legs, except, you have the occasional, Tommy Hearns
right.
wasn't known for his, and he was a knockout puncher, even Deontay Wilder. But, it's been a pleasure to watch you, in my opinion, since I've known you for more than, 15 years, rise to, I knew you did a lot of refereeing jobs in let's just say locally, New York, New Jersey, yep. Pennsylvania. I know you were out west, Minnesota area and stuff a lot, but you were also been all over the world. Hey, by the way, I was at the one of the fights you did in Canada with Denton Daly. It was at Mississauga. It was at some. You remember that place?
Yeah,
it was
I do.
In the middle of it was crazy. It was,
yes.
But anyway,
that was.
It was. That place. I mean, it's nice venue, but it was just kind of unique. But anyway,
that was a devastating knockout.
No, and he was the favorite. He was the local kid.
Yeah.
Denton Daly.
Yeah.
But you also Germany, Japan, Russia, England. How's your ride been, brother?
How's my ride been?
Yeah, how's the ride? The referee ride from Hamburg, New York, in a sense, to around the world. I mean,
it's been unbelievable. I'm pinching myself all the time. It's I'm very fortunate. At Don's service last night, my boxing coach, I was talking about how were it not for him, I would never even have gotten into refereeing. Like he encouraged me. He goes, "Hey, we need some referees. Why don't you come to be a referee?" And at the time, I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll do it." I was like, the training was coming up in Buffalo a month later, and then it came up, and he called me on the phone, and I was like hungover. I was, overslept. And he's like, "Hey, you're going to come to that training." And I was like, my wife's like, "Don's on the phone. He wants to know if you're coming to the training." And I go, "Tell him I'm not going to go." My wife, we'd only been married a year. And she goes, less than a year. And she said, she just handed me phone and looked at me and looked at me. And she said, I can still see the look on her face. She said, "You got a bad habit of telling people you're going to do something and not doing it." And after she said that, I made sure I got to that training, reluctantly. And but as soon as I walked in the door, I was like, wow, I'm home. This is where I want to do, and I just made a commitment. I was like hungover driving there. This is a younger Charlie back then, much younger days.
Well, it's a good move that you did that, I remember. Well, yeah, Maybe I shouldn't remember, but I remember.
Let's hear it. And you can say anything bad about me.
No, I'm not going to say anything bad. It was great. We had a good time. It was at one of the fights at Turning Stone. We ended up all after the fight at that whatever that place is.
Yep, the tavern.
Yeah, and then the next time I see you, I'm like, "Hey, we'll be." And you said, "Hey, no." The commission told me I can't. Remember, we closed it that night. You know?
Yeah. In fact, I used to every time there, I would get kicked out. They close it, and we go looking for more beer somewhere else, more alcohol. So I had I guess too many fun times.
Yeah, no, I remember the one night because John was there, and it was fun. Listen, one of the other things that maybe some of my listeners and viewers don't know about you is that you're a boxing guy, and that's one of the things I love about talking with you and stuff when we do. So now I want you to put your well, before I say this, what's your thoughts on some of the one-sided fights that we're subjected to these days? Not as a referee, just as a boxing person. What's your thoughts on that?
Like one-sided in regards to just one fighter is just so much better than the other one,
and we all know it
into the fight.
Yes, going into the fight, we all know it, and we're basically expected to watch this fight and think it's showing us something.
My thoughts on it, my thoughts are I always feel like the best fighters in the world want to fight the other best fighters in the world. They want to run towards the best fights. And so when I see fighters avoiding, seemingly anyhow, and it's not only the fighters themselves, a lot of times it's their management, but when the best fighters aren't fighting each other, sometimes it makes me think, wow, this fighter maybe is not really one of the best, and his management sees something in him that they don't see, that he may not see himself or she. And so they're kind of purposely being a little bit careful with who they're fighting. But the best fighters, they make their management make those fights happen. And I'm willing to, I guess, as the fan, there's still a part of me that's a fan. I can't really be a fan anymore. But some of it still lingers, and that part of me is like willing to say, well, in order to have the great fight, next one in line, I hope, I'm willing to put up with this one that here is pretty, looks pretty straightforward, one-sided match.
Well, that's my segue to the next question. So let me start off by saying I think what Zuffa Boxing is proposing to do, or what it looks like they're going to do, and I know it's almost as bad talking about that as politics these days, but the truth of the matter is that you have all the sanctioning bodies all making it seem like Zuffa Boxing and Dana White's the evil new evil king coming into town. But the truth of the matter is that model will give us what boxing used to be. In other words, the fighters fighting each other, not becoming devalued after they lose, or if they lose a fight, because they're fighting tougher, younger. But at the end of the day, you're going to have the best fighters rising to the top. And may I even say one champion for each division, So I think what we would see as boxing purists is a better form of boxing. And all it's going to take is the money. If the money keeps flowing, and my big predictions have been, I believe that Usyk will fight his last fight under Zuffa. I believe that Canelo, as a matter of fact, I believe Canelo's next championship fight will be for Zuffa this coming September. And I also think you're going to see Ryan Garcia and Shakur Stevenson end up going over that way. They're already all having conflicts with sanctioning bodies. So do you think that it could be better for the sport. I mean, once everything this is assuming that the fighters are getting paid. In other words, for them to fight under that model, they got to get paid, and then they'll be willing to fight whoever is put in front of them. Don't you think?
Yeah, I'm all for the best fighters fighting each other. That's what I'd like to see happen, is the best fighters fight each other. And I kind of always viewed it, the ring champion as the true world champion, but I also I do respect the sanctioning bodies, because it gives the fighters opportunities to fight for belts. And so I kind of see it as, well, like if I was in charge of the sanctioning body, I want to have the best fighter be my champion, and I would want them to be seen as the true world champion. So I want to see them fight the other champions and prove that we got the best. And if we don't have the best, then okay, then the guy that beat our champion is now our champion. So now we got the best. But I guess I'm not real familiar with Zuffa, so I don't. If they're going to make the great fights happen, then that's awesome.
Well, the thing is, it's interesting the way you just said about the sanctioning bodies, which to tell you the truth, that mindset could have worked. They're actually doing that as of late, because they've had a pact about unification fights and stuff. So you're right about that. But what Zuffa's doing is basically eliminating. They're not going to recognize any of those sanctioning bodies. So fighters that fight under that, like what they just did to your cruiserweight Jay Apatea, the IBF flexed their muscle and stripped him because he fought for a Zuffa title. And now it's going to be interesting to see what happens if fighters, like top fighters, come and fight. I think McKillian should go and fight him. And it's going to be interesting to see, because he's regarded as one of the top cruiserweights, if not the best.
Oh yeah, he's a great fighter.
So let's see what happens. If he's still a draw and people still have him on top, then that stripping is going to mean nothing. Yeah. And I think other fighters are going to start to do it if they can make the money. That's my point.
Yeah.
I mean, truthfully, it's about the money, right?
Yeah, the money is definitely important for the fighters, real important. But I think like the greatest fighters, they got a lot of pride. Like you mentioned Canelo, he didn't run he took on everybody. And those great fighters like that, they didn't avoid any fighters. They ran towards the hardest fights to prove that they were the greatest. And they're the ring champion. So that's the Ring Magazine champion. So.
That's changed. That's changed. It was the same. I recently heard an interview with Oscar De La Hoya, and he was complaining. He was complaining about how the rankings are now that Turki Al-Rashid owns the mag, and kind of alluding to the fact that he thought that they were padded. But that was the problem when Golden Boy owned it. All his fighters were there. So yeah, but you're talking about the way it was back in the day when it was clearly the best fighter. I don't know anymore. The ratings are so crazy. You got, a guy number one who's supposed to be rated number one, and then nobody else rates him at all. How can he be that good? I don't know.
Yeah. I miss like Ring Magazine in the 1980s when Randy Gordon, and Bert Sugar had that, and they had the top 20. So like being ranked in the top 20 really had meaning. And I kind of wish Ring would adapt that, because there's a lot of fighters who are good fighters, but they're not in the top 10, but they're still a top 20. Top 20 in the world is pretty darn good.
No, yeah. If we were doing the top 20, but conceivably, 20 times 4. So you're looking at the top 80. That could be conceivably because.
Oh, you're talking about each sanctioning body's ranking,
right? Because that's the problem. That's the problem.
Yeah. I don't look at those. I only look at the Ring.
Okay. Well, the Ring. So
and that's why I wish they did 20 instead of 10.
Yeah. Yeah. Well. They did. They did. What did I notice? It mustn't have been in print, but it was online. They did the top 11. to get somebody on the range who recently fought. I don't recall what it was, but anyway, where are we going to see you again? Where are you? When's your next assignment? Do you know?
Yep. Going to be in Atlantic City. Next Saturday, April 11th. At a Boardwalk Hall. So that's going to be that's like a treat getting to go to Atlantic City for me, because in my time period in the 80s, in the 90s, before I got into refereeing, was a time when Atlantic City, New Jersey was like them and Vegas were equal in my mind as a boxing fan. Those were equal places. So like I just love the history there and being there in Atlantic City.
Yeah, but remember when it went downhill? It went downhill real fast in what was it? The late '80s, and it came back though. It came back in the late '90s. It wasn't. That's the way I remember it anyway.
It came back for a bit. It was like when they had what was it? TV KO shows were going on.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, Larry Hazard turned everything around in Jersey, so I mean, he's the man there.
He's you don't get any better than him as a commissioner, and I think that's because he was a referee.
He's a boxing guy.
He's a boxing guy. He understands it fully. You don't understand it any better than him.
No.
So he fully understands it, the sport.
And that's always been my argument, that's what boxing needs, more boxing guys.
I agree.
But
I agree.
Hey, Charlie, I appreciate you coming on, and I look forward to seeing you ringside again soon.
Hey, I do too. Thank you for having me, Billy. That was a real honor to be here.
Hey, next time we'll figure out your video so we can.
I know. I'm sorry I couldn't get my video going.
Here I thought you were this computer savvy guy.
Oh God, no. My wife could do it. I should have talked to her and get it set up in advance.
Yeah, you should have let her do it. I'm going to call her and have her shame you the way she shamed you to become a referee, for God's sake.
Oh yeah, man. She kicks my ass all the time.
All right, Charlie. Be good. I'll see you soon.
Hey, take care, man. All right. All the best to you. Bye-bye.
All right, thank you. That's Charlie Fitch. In my opinion, one of boxing's top, and I'm saying top two referees out there. The thing I've always said about referees is if sometimes you don't remember who was refereeing the fight, that means they did a good job. Because I can't stand the mentality, and there's plenty of referees out there that think it's fighter A versus fighter B featuring referee so and so. No, I want to watch the fight. I don't want to watch the referee. But anyway,